based on real events. A foggy sense of something familiar envelops Anabel. She finds herself in a place that resembles their old apartment, but the details are strangely blurred, as if they're constantly changing. The walls lighten and darken, and the air feels thick, almost viscous. Her sister Emma stands beside her. "Emma, why are you clinging to me?" "Like a child," Anabel says with a warm, slightly tired smile, as though this isn't the first time. "Well, who else am I supposed to cling to?" "I only have one sister left," Emma replies, feeling a mix of lightness and sadness, as if all her fears have melted away in this strange, eerily cozy atmosphere. "Cling to your man," Anabel smirks. "Oh, I am. But what's the point?" Emma sighs, looking around and noticing something on the table. Anabel spots a watch old, with a worn strap. She instantly recognizes it, and her heart tightens. It's Antonio's watch. She turns her head and sees him. "Antonio." Anabel calls out, her voice echoing dully around the room, as if the walls won't let it escape. "Antonio." She repeats, feeling everything around her become even less real. Antonio looks at her, but his face is strangely blurry, as if viewed through thin fabric. "He's dead," she hears Emma's voice, but she can't tear her eyes away from the figure before her. "Are you out of your mind?" "There he is," Anabel insists, but Antonio starts to fade away, as though dissolving into the air. Emma calls her name, as if trying to wake her up. "Anabel? Anabel? Anabel?" Anabel wakes up, feeling a sense of anxiety and emptiness. The dream slips from her memory, leaving only a strange feeling of loss and unclear hope. After that strange dream, Anabel felt shattered. She couldn't forget Antonio's face, so real, yet at the same time, ghostly. Her heart ached, as if she were losing him all over again. In desperation, she decided to visit a fortune teller that acquaintances had told her about. Maybe there, she would find the answers she was missing. Anabel sat across from the fortune teller in a small, dimly lit room, smelling of herbs and wax. The fortune teller, a middle-aged woman with piercing eyes, looked at Anabel as if she were reading her mind. "I've been dreaming about someone lately. Sometimes." Anabel began, unsure where to start. Her voice sounded a bit uncertain. "Anabel, born under Gemini, in the year of the ox, the tree is alder, the stone is opal," the fortune teller said, as if stating an obvious fact. "Women born under Gemini in the year of the ox are strong-willed, endowed with inner calm. At the same time, they will do anything to achieve their goals." Anabel remained silent, nodding in agreement. The fortune teller continued. "Who is this person you dream about?" "It's Antonio," Anabel quietly answered, her eyes fixed on the candle on the table. "We were train conductors together, but I've been out of that job for a long time, and he's no longer alive." The fortune teller squinted, her gaze becoming even more intense. "Antonio. Antonio. Why has he started coming to me? Is he calling me to him? My heart has been hurting lately," Anabel continued, her voice trembling as she struggled to hold back tears. "Look at the flame," the fortune teller said, pointing to the candle. Anabel looked at the flame. It flickered and danced, and it seemed like something alive was hidden within it. "He's alive," the fortune teller suddenly said. "Alive? But there was an accident. He died. He wasn't from here." "They buried him far away," Anabel replied, trying to understand what the fortune teller meant. "Did you see him in the coffin?" Anabel furrowed her brow, remembering. No, she hadn't seen him in the coffin. Everything had happened so strangely and quickly that she hadn't even been invited to the funeral. "Take this pouch," the fortune teller said, handing her a small linen bag. "When you find something that belongs to Antonio, put it in the pouch and recite this incantation: gather all in, tell us what you know, like water in the sea, bring the dream here. Then place it under your pillow. That way, you'll be able to ask Antonio in your dreams what he wants. Anabel took the pouch, feeling a strange calm and confidence. To be honest, we were lovers, she suddenly confessed, her eyes becoming misty. Conductors aren't supposed to have affairs, but where else could we do it, with all the time spent at work? The fortune teller nodded, showing neither surprise nor judgment. What could I possibly have that belongs to Antonio? Anabel asked, feeling a sense of emptiness. I see that you can find something of Antonio's, the fortune teller replied. And the pouch I gave you isn't ordinary. It will help. Anabel left the small room with the pouch in her hands, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. Maybe she would finally understand what Antonio was trying to tell her and free herself from the burden of the past. Immediately after visiting the fortune teller, Anabel opened the pouch and recited the incantation over it. Then, she spent the rest of the evening searching her home for anything that might have belonged to Antonio. But she found nothing. Anabel worked as a maid at a small hotel, and her day began with the usual rush: changing the bed linens, cleaning the rooms, making sure everything was ready for new guests. She tried not to think about the troubling dreams that had been haunting her for the past few weeks. Her hands moved automatically as she made the bed, when the door opened and her boss, Sebastian, walked in. He approached Anabel with a slight smile, and before she could say anything, he leaned in and gently kissed her on the lips. She froze for a moment, but then responded to his kiss. Her heart raced, a mix of excitement and a sense of danger. Didn't sleep well again? Sebastian asked with concern in his voice, pulling back and looking into her eyes. Anabel sighed, trying to hide her exhaustion, and smiled. Well, enough about that, she replied quietly, pretending everything was fine. But before they could continue their conversation, Anabel's phone vibrated in her pocket. She quickly pulled it out and glanced at the screen. It was her sister Emma. Emma, Anabel muttered, apologetically gesturing to the phone. Hello. Yes. Your number? Anabel's voice became businesslike. She listened to the caller while trying to ignore Sebastian's gaze. They want to book the room again. Is it available? She asked Sebastian, covering the microphone with her hand. Yeah, it's available, Sebastian replied, nodding. Yes, okay. We're looking forward to it. Goodbye. Anabel ended the call and put the phone back in her pocket. Sebastian smirked, looking at her. She said he's going to marry her. Almost got divorced. And yet, they're always hopping between hotels for the hour, Anabel remarked, her voice tinged with irritation and a hidden weariness. Well, why are you scolding your sister? She may be younger, but you see how clever she is, Sebastian replied with a smile. She dumped me, guess I wasn't the right prospect. But her suitor every time picks up the tab: champagne, dinner, all that fancy stuff. Anabel shook her head, feeling a wave of disappointment. That's enough, I need to get back to work. Here, take this. Let's go, Anabel said, handing him the cleaning supplies as if inviting him to help. Sebastian laughed and took the supplies, treating it like a playful challenge. After learning that Antonio was alive, Anabel decided to talk to her younger sister, since Emma knew Antonio too. She had also worked as a conductor. Emma and her boyfriend Pasha arrived at the hotel where Anabel worked. Anabel spotted them in the lobby and decided it was the perfect moment to talk. She approached Emma, gave a slight smile, and, turning to her boyfriend, said, Hey, Stas. Can I borrow Emma for a second? I won't keep her long. Stas nodded, smiling as he replied. Let's order champagne, okay? Well, of course, Emma sighed slightly and followed her sister aside. Anabel stopped a little further away, trying to ensure their conversation couldn't be overheard. "So, what's up?" Emma asked impatiently, crossing her arms over her chest. "Do you remember Antonio? Do you have his address? You were his superior, the head conductor. You traveled with him often." "I went less," Anabel started, her voice trembling. "And why do you need it?" Emma asked, her brows furrowing. "I need to," Anabel replied firmly. "Leave me alone." "What nonsense is this?" "I don't know anything." Emma turned away, annoyance clear on her face. Every time Anabel thought about Antonio, her heart ached. It hurt again now. But she couldn't back down. She looked at her sister, feeling a battle between hurt and desperation inside her. "Emma, please, if you know anything." Anabel tried again, but Emma just shook her head. "No, Anabel, seriously, leave it. It's all in the past," Emma said, then returned to Pasha, leaving Anabel alone. Anabel watched her sister walk away, feeling the pain rise in her chest. Her heart ached, but she knew she couldn't just leave it all behind. Antonio was coming to her in dreams, and she had to figure out what he wanted. Anabel sat alone in her apartment late at night. The sense of loneliness, mixed with the recent turmoil, wouldn't let her sleep. She stared out the window when the phone rang. The screen lit up with the name Sebastian. "Yes, Sebastian." "What?" she answered, slightly surprised. "Come to the window," she heard his voice. Anabel, feeling a slight sense of anticipation, got up from the couch and walked to the window. She parted the curtains and saw Sebastian. He was standing outside, looking up, his figure outlined by the glow of a street lamp. "Marry me," he said, his voice filled with confidence and warmth. Anabel froze, her heart racing. The moment was unexpected, yet somehow magical. She couldn't help but smile, feeling warmth spread inside her. Anabel invited Sebastian in, and they spent the night together, enjoying each other's company. But after midnight, Sebastian began to gather his things. The apartment was silent, broken only by the rustle of clothing and soft footsteps. "Anabel, I won't stay tonight. My mom hasn't been feeling well lately," Sebastian said, buttoning up his shirt. Anabel sighed, trying to hide her displeasure. "Yeah, of course. Who would know better than me? When has she ever felt good?" she said with a hint of sarcasm. Sebastian looked at her, his brow furrowed slightly. "You still haven't answered my proposal," he reminded her, trying to soften the conversation. Anabel suddenly noticed his watch and frowned. "Where did you get that watch?" she asked sharply. "Emma gave it to me." "It was before you," Sebastian replied calmly. "I've never seen it before," Anabel said, her eyes fixed on the watch. "My others stopped working today, so I just put these on." "What's wrong?" Sebastian shrugged, not understanding her reaction. Anabel recognized the watch as Antonio's and immediately recalled the fortune teller's words, "The item needed for the ritual will reveal itself." Her heart clenched with anxiety. "So, you still care about her?" "Of course, Emma's younger, prettier, taller than me," Anabel said bitterly. Sebastian tried to move closer and calm her down. "Me and Emma, it was nothing serious. Not like it is with you and me," he said, attempting to embrace her. Anabel pulled away. "And yet you're wearing her gift. Doesn't seem so insignificant, does it? You know what? Give me the watch if it doesn't mean anything to you." Her voice was filled with determination. Sebastian took off the watch and handed it to her. "Take it. They'll return mine tomorrow. Mine are better, and this one's just cheap." "Is that enough?" he said, trying to stay calm. Anabel took the watch, feeling her hands shake. She looked at Sebastian, and tears welled up in her eyes. "So, will you marry me now?" He smiled, as if nothing had happened. Anabel shook her head, her voice soft and weary. "First, talk to your mom. She's the one in charge, after all," she replied. Sebastian nodded and sighed. "I've already talked to my mom about you. Of course, she's not thrilled that you used to be a conductor and now you're a maid, but I'm an adult, I make my own decisions. I'm going now, you rest, you've been too nervous lately. See you tomorrow," he said, heading toward the door. Anabel was left alone in the dark, her heart racing, and her thoughts tangled. She looked at Antonio's watch, feeling the past creeping back into her life. Once Sebastian left, Anabel recited the incantation over the watch that Antonio once wore: "Gather everything into yourself, tell us how the water in the sea flows, bring the dream here." Anabel dreamed a dream in which she saw Antonio. They stood in the middle of a misty field, as if in some other reality. Antonio looked at her with such tenderness that his eyes seemed to radiate warmth. "All this time, I loved you. Did you know?" he said softly, and his words echoed like a distant call. Anabel shook her head, trying to hold back tears. "I didn't know you were alive. I tried to live without you, as best as I could, but I didn't do very well," she answered, feeling a tremor in her voice. Antonio stepped closer and gently touched her cheek. "I missed you so much." "Don't worry, we'll see each other soon," he said, smiling a soft smile. "But when?" "Your watch." "I found it," Anabel said, her voice filled with hope. "Find our time," Antonio replied mysteriously. "Antonio, how do I find it?" she asked, her eyes glistening with tears. Antonio looked at her with confidence. "You can do it," he said, and his image began to fade into the mist, leaving Anabel alone. Anabel woke up with her heart full of mixed emotions: sadness, hope, and determination. The watch had now become the key to the puzzle, and she was ready to do whatever it took to understand what Antonio was trying to tell her. After Anabel learned about the possible magical connection, she decided to visit the fortune teller again. Her head was full of questions, and her heart full of anxiety. In the morning, she headed to the familiar dark alley where the woman who might have the answers lived. "I found something of Antonio's, these watches," Anabel said, holding the watch in her hands as they sat in the dimly lit room. "And in the dream, he asked me to find our time." "What does that mean?" The fortune teller carefully examined the watch, then lifted her eyes to Anabel and said, "Your Antonio is already 1 foot in the grave." Anabel furrowed her brow, her face turning pale. The fortune teller sighed and continued, "Your Antonio married the witch who clouded his mind and made him forget you." She sighed again, as though contemplating something before she spoke. "You two could have had a future together, but your time was stolen. Another woman took him, performed a ritual with these very watches, and stopped your shared time. She bound Antonio in magical chains, and he forgot you. But just like you, he feels lost without you. You're soulmates. That's why you both suffer and ache. The pain in your heart is no coincidence," the fortune teller said, watching Anabel's reaction. "My heart really does hurt all the time," Anabel whispered, rubbing her chest. The fortune teller nodded. "Antonio is now stuck between life and death, which is why he remembered you. When he was on the brink, the magic of his wife weakened, and the watch started to move in his dream. That's a sign. I'll give you a ritual that will help you recover your lost time. But remember, this time will be taken from her. Use this water," the fortune teller handed Anabel a vial, "and have Antonio drink it." "And what will happen?" Anabel asked, her voice filled with both hope and anxiety. "The magic of his wife will dissolve, and he will remember you. After that, sprinkle this water on the watch. Your time will return to you," the fortune teller said, her voice calm and confident. Anabel took the vial, feeling determination growing inside her. She knew this was her chance to bring Antonio back, to recover what they had, and to be together despite all the obstacles. Anabel and Emma decided to spend the morning at the gym, doing physical exercises. A light mist still lingered on the ground, and the cool air helped shake off the remnants of sleep. They both aimed to stay in shape, but each had different reasons for doing so. While squatting by the pull-up bar, Emma glanced at her sister, grinning as she said, "You have to keep in shape when you have a rich lover. Stas finally got generous and rented me an apartment. So, we're not hopping from hotel to hotel anymore." Anabel nodded, smiling, but there was noticeable concern in her eyes. "I'm happy for you. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. Tell me, why didn't you return Antonio's watch? Remember, he left it in the compartment, and I asked you to bring it back." Anabel stopped and looked at Emma closely. Emma waved her hand, continuing to squat. "I forgot. Then Antonio died, and I quit. Started working at this stupid hotel, and gave the watch to Sebastian," she answered, not giving much thought to her words. Anabel furrowed her brows, her face becoming serious. "Who told you Antonio died? Wendy? The one from his hometown?" she asked, her voice firm. Emma sighed and stopped abruptly, looking at her sister. "Why are you digging into the past, huh? What's the point? You'd be better off telling me how things are going with Sebastian. I'm starting to worry about you, sis. I've got myself a rich man, and he gives me money for living, while you're still running around as a maid." "Don't let Sebastian slip away," Emma said, changing the subject. Anabel smirked, shaking her head. "Did you put the idea in his head that he should propose yesterday?" she asked, remembering Sebastian's unexpected visit. Emma smirked and shrugged. "Maybe I did. Who knows Sebastian better than me? Told him he needs to appreciate you, or someone else will snatch you right out from under his nose." Anabel rolled her eyes, but there was a trace of gratitude in her gaze. "Bad timing with your matchmaking," she replied, her voice softer. "All right, I'll go to our old office now, try to find Antonio's address. Still got some time before my shift." Emma frowned and shook her head. "Why do you need to do that? Don't be stupid," she said, her voice full of concern. Anabel turned around, already preparing to leave. "Anabel, wait. Wait, explain to me, why do you need all this?" Emma shouted, but Anabel just waved her hand and walked away. Emma stood there, her face a mix of confusion and worry. She didn't know what was driving her sister, but she felt that this wouldn't end simply. Anabel was able to find Antonio's address and decided to head to the town where he lived to figure everything out. She understood it would take time, so she planned to talk to Sebastian about her plans. In the evening, when they were home, Sebastian noticed her suitcase by the door and frowned. "How are you leaving? What wedding? Why so suddenly?" he asked, his voice sounding surprised and slightly irritated. Anabel walked closer, placing her hands on his shoulders and trying to calm him. "Sebastian, I'm sorry, but I can't miss this wedding. My best friend is getting married. We lost touch for a while because I changed my number, but she finally reached me. She's like a sister to me, you understand? Can you imagine what it's like to work as conductors together for years? We took turns sleeping, shared all the hardships. She's like family to me now. And the wedding is tomorrow," Anabel said, trying to speak softly and convincingly. Sebastian sighed heavily, pursed his lips, and looked at Anabel, his eyes showing discontent. "Mom's not going to be happy. I already told her we were coming for dinner tomorrow," he said, shaking his head. "All right, what can I do? Go ahead. Just behave yourself. I know how these weddings go, he added with a smirk, more worry than humor in his expression. Anabel smiled, feeling grateful for his willingness to compromise. Thank you, Sebastian. I'll be back as soon as I can, she said, gently kissing him. Sebastian nodded, his arms wrapping around her waist. Just don't stay too long, okay? I'm going to miss you, he said, his voice softer and quieter. I promise, Anabel whispered, feeling her heart race. She knew this trip was important, and now she was ready to do whatever it took. That evening, Anabel boarded the train, and by the next morning, she was in the town where Antonio lived. She hesitated for a long time before entering his house, standing before the door and breathing in the cool morning air. But then, her resolve returned, and she knocked. Is anyone home? She called, stepping into the dimly lit room. From the back of the house came a muffled voice. Are you from the clinic? Need a shot? Come in. My wife went to the pharmacy, she'll be back soon. No, I'm not from the clinic, Anabel replied, stepping closer. In the room, on an old couch, lay Antonio. He looked weak, his eyes dull, and his face pale. Hello, Anabel greeted him, trying to hide the tremble in her voice. Hello, Antonio replied, looking at her with a blank stare. Are you the new nurse? Sorry, my wife went to get the syringes, she'll bring them soon. Antonio, don't you recognize me? Anabel asked, her voice trembling with pain. Antonio furrowed his brow, but there was no recognition in his eyes. No. You. The new nurse. He repeated, as if not understanding who was standing before him. Anabel realized that Antonio truly didn't remember her. Her heart clenched, but she knew why she had come. She began the ritual, holding the bottle of water in her hands and speaking the words the fortune teller had given her. Bring the water. What did not come on its own? Antonio looked at her, confused. Did my wife send you? Are you treating me with herbs? He asked, but suddenly, something flickered in his eyes. Anabel! He exclaimed, as if coming back to life. I thought you were gone. That's what they told me, but never mind. Dad! A child's voice called from behind the door. At that moment, a woman entered the room. Wendy, Antonio's wife, was holding the hand of a little girl. Anabel turned and met her gaze cold and wary. So, what do you want here? Wendy snapped, her voice full of anger. My time, the one you stole, Anabel replied calmly, but her heart filled with doubt when she saw the little girl standing next to Wendy. Mom. The girl squeezed Wendy's hand, her eyes full of fear and confusion. You have a daughter? Anabel asked quietly, her gaze softening. Upon learning that Antonio and Wendy had a child, Anabel decided not to finish the ritual and take back the stolen time. She felt pity for the little girl, who wasn't responsible for what had happened. I'll leave now, Anabel said, turning away. Trying to leave? That trick won't work on me. Wendy shouted, her face twisted with fury. And how did you separate us? Told me he was dead. You did that. Anabel cried out, feeling the pain growing inside her. Wendy smirked and shrugged. Ask your sister, she answered coldly. Suddenly, Wendy gasped in pain and collapsed unconscious. What's happening to you? Anabel asked in alarm, looking at Wendy. Mom. The little girl screamed, running towards her mother. Anabel realized that her presence was only making things worse. She cast one last look at Antonio, then turned and left, leaving the house filled with pain and unresolved secrets. Anabel returned to the fortune teller with a heavy heart. She couldn't forget what had happened in Antonio's house. Wendy was in the hospital in critical condition, and Antonio and their little daughter were with her all the time. Anabel knew she hadn't meant to harm anyone, but something had gone wrong. Wendy's in the hospital, in serious condition. Antonio and their daughter are with her, Anabel said, her voice full of bitterness. But I never wanted this. I didn't even finish the ritual. How could I take time from the mother of a 5-year-old girl? The fortune teller raised an eyebrow without looking up from her bowl. Did the water spill on the clock? She asked, as if already knowing the answer. Yes, by accident. Wendy spilled it herself, Anabel replied, her voice trembling. The witch unknowingly strengthened the backlash from her own spell. Her time just poured out of her, the fortune teller sighed. But it didn't go to you. The clock is broken. And now, just like the witch, you might die too. Anabel paled, her eyes wide with terror. How awful. What should I do now? She whispered, unable to believe what she had just heard. The fortune teller looked at her with cold calmness. I see 3 women. And 1 man. You are all connected. But only one of you has the power to fix the situation. Only she can stop the time that's slipping away and save you all. But she will stop it at the cost of her own personal happiness. For many years, it will be taken from her. Anabel frowned, feeling her heart tighten with anxiety. Who is this woman? She asked. Your sister? Emma? The fortune teller nodded but said nothing. Her gaze was full of weight. Why? Anabel continued, her voice trembling. Ask her yourself. But how will she stop it? The fortune teller pulled a small bundle from her bag and handed it to Anabel. I will give you a ritual. It will help Emma. But the choice is hers alone. You need to talk to her, she said, staring directly into Anabel's eyes. Anabel took the bundle, feeling a wave of despair wash over her. She knew that now, everything wasn't just up to her. Emma would have to make a choice that would change their lives forever. Anabel couldn't wait any longer. She knew the truth was hidden with her sister, and the only way to figure it out was to face Emma head-on. She went to her sister's house, and seeing her through the window, called out for her to come outside. Emma. Hi, Anabel called out, her voice tense. What's going on? Why the urgency? Emma asked, stepping out of the house and walking closer. Anabel looked at her, her eyes cold. Why did you lie to me about Antonio being gone? She asked, trying to keep her emotions in check. Why have you stayed silent? Emma, clearly caught off guard by the question, sighed heavily, looked away, and quietly asked, So you found them? Tell me the truth, Anabel pressed, her voice growing even more firm. Emma avoided her gaze, her face tightening even more. I was head over heels in love with Antonio, and he rejected me, she began, her voice trembling. I could have gotten over it, forgotten, but then I found out you two were together. You have no idea. It was like a punch in the gut. It's one thing to forget someone, but it's something else entirely to see them with you every day. I just couldn't bear it. She paused, then continued, her voice growing colder. Then this Wendy appeared. She was crying, saying she was pregnant. She thought I was his mistress. So, I decided that it would be better to just erase him from our lives, Anabel. Anabel stood there, silently looking at her sister, her eyes glistening with tears. She realized that everything was far more complicated than she could have ever imagined. Emma, listen to me, Anabel said, her voice trembling. Things are much worse now. I found out that because of what happened, Wendy ended up in the hospital, and I'm in danger too. We have to fix everything, but I need your help. You have to perform the ritual. You'll have to pay with your own happiness to save me, Antonio, and his wife. Emma's eyes widened, her face contorted with shock and outrage. Are you out of your mind? What are you even talking about? No way. she shouted, her voice shaking with anger. "Emma! Please!" Anabel begged, her eyes filling with tears. "No," Emma answered firmly. "Everything has a price," Anabel said, her voice softer but no less determined. "No," Emma repeated, turning and heading back toward the house. Anabel stood alone, feeling her hope for a solution slowly slipping away. She understood that the decision was in her sister's hands, but Emma wasn't ready to make such a sacrifice. Anabel realized that she would have to find another way to save the one she loved. When Wendy, Antonio's wife, got worse, she was transferred to a hospital in the district center where Anabel lived. Antonio found himself in a difficult situation. He needed to take care of his wife and look after their daughter. That's when Anabel offered for him and Gloria to stay with her to help with the challenges. "We'll have tea now. Come on into the kitchen," Anabel said, trying to create a cozy atmosphere. "How are you?" "I'm fine. How about you?" Antonio replied, sounding tired. "I've made so much food, you need to eat. After that, we'll go to the hospital together to check on things," Anabel suggested, her voice soft and caring. "No, I'll go by myself. You stay here with Gloria, okay?" Antonio asked, glancing at his daughter, who was sitting at the table. "I won't let you go alone," Anabel countered. "Emma will be here soon to sit with her. For now, cut the pie and take everything to the living room." At that moment, Emma walked into the house, her expression slightly wary. "If you're going to try to convince me to do that ritual again, you're wasting your time," Emma said, not even bothering to greet anyone. Anabel smiled and pointed to the pie. "Come on, I baked a pie." "Wait, how do I look?" "Better than anyone," Anabel replied, trying to cheer her up. Emma entered the living room, where Antonio and Gloria were sitting. "Hi, Antonio," she smiled. "Hi," Antonio nodded. "This is my daughter, Gloria." "Hello," Emma said softly, then turned to the little girl. "Hi. Take the pie, let's go to the living room," Anabel suggested, handing out the plates. "All right," Emma nodded, taking the plates. "Take the plates, let's go, sweetie," she said to Gloria. Once everyone was settled in the living room, Emma stared at the girl for a long time before turning to Anabel. "She looks so much like him," Emma said, her voice filled with sadness and tenderness. "Why are you smiling? I've never seen you like this." "Like what?" Anabel asked, embarrassed. "Happy," Emma replied, her eyes softening. "Did you call me here to have me look at their daughter and feel sorry for Wendy? For all of them?" Anabel sighed. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. Emma nodded, sighed, and suddenly spoke. "And I'm sorry too. I thought and thought, remembering all this time. I almost called you myself. I don't understand how I could have thought that your happiness could get in my way." "You know, I understand," Anabel replied. "It's not easy to accept. Sometimes I just want to, well, hurt Wendy. When I think about how many years she took from me, how I was like a prisoner, my heart hurt. Antonio almost died. But now I look at their daughter, and I feel sorry for her." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "What about Sebastian?" Emma asked. "I told him everything, and he fired me," Anabel said sadly. "Yeah, that's him," Emma confirmed bitterly. "Listen, you said after the ritual, I'd lose my happiness for many years, right?" Emma asked, her expression turning serious. "Yes," Anabel confirmed. "Well, so what?" Emma said resolutely. "I don't need that kind of happiness. Hotels, rental apartments, a married man. He'll never divorce. Let's do the ritual and get back to being conductors." "Are you serious?" Anabel asked, surprised. "Yeah, why not? It's romantic, Emma smiled. No, I mean about the ritual. You know, we don't know how long we'll be without happiness after, Anabel said with concern in her voice. Listen, if happiness is like yours, real happiness, it's worth waiting for, Emma replied, her voice calm and confident. The sisters decided to perform the ritual, despite all the challenges and risks. After the ritual, Wendy's condition would improve, and she would begin to recover. Freed from the spell, Antonio would decide to divorce her and propose to Anabel, whose heart would finally stop aching. Even after the divorce, Antonio would continue to support his daughter and his ex-wife, taking care of them and looking after Gloria. If you find yourself in a difficult life situation, try looking for a hint in your dreams. To do this, write 9 words that best describe your situation on a piece of paper. Burn the paper, and place the ashes in an envelope. Put the envelope under your pillow overnight, and with your eyes closed, ask higher powers for help. Try not to forget your dream in the morning. There may be answers hidden in it that can help you overcome your challenges.